But moving on now to former Sydney Morning Herald columnist Clementine Ford, who has been cancelled, deplatformed from social media after publishing a whole bunch of horrific commentary following the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Like, his most ferocious male fans are so fucking gay for him. They're all crying out of their penises in my messages. You're so mean. You're a fucking fat. You have no morals. Charlie's dead. Off, losers. Just remember, he died doing what he loved, defending guns. He took a bullet for the cause, and according to Charlie Kirk, a few deaths a year from guns is a small price to pay to defend the Second Amendment. So what more could he possibly ask for? It's a tribute and legacy to the pointlessness of his life.
She also wrote on Instagram hours after Kirk's death that almost every freedom you have has been won through political violence. And she published this in response to Erica Kirk, the widow, for forgiving the shooter of her husband.
That young man, I forgive him.
Now, it is worth noting that the Sydney Morning Herald has not even covered this issue, even though they helped build Clementine Ford's profile, publishing her for years as a columnist. The Sydney Morning Herald still even has her profile page up, where it plugs her as a best-selling author and a feminist commentator, and then promotes one of her books. Clementine Ford is a best-selling author, feminist commentator. Her book, Boys Will Be Boys, is out now. We asked their media writer, Calum Jaspan, why he failed to cover it, and his response was rather shocking. He said, "It's not really my remit, I wouldn't think. I haven't pitched anything about it. I don't have a hell of a lot of interest writing about it." And then my favourite excuse from him, "I didn't see it, to be honest." He didn't see the story about their own former columnist defending political violence? That's one hell of a media writer you have, Sydney Morning Herald. And of course, we have Media Watch's Linton Besser, who hasn't said a word about this, despite the fact that the ABC has a dedicated profile for Ford. The ABC says that Ford writes on feminism, pop culture and social issues when not bra burning and inciting women to radical separatist lesbianism. She can be found yelling at her TV and making pithy jokes on the radio. How charming. She sounds so nice. What a lovely taxpayer-funded plug. Do you see how these lefties protect each other, though? Media Watch won't touch this, and the Sydney Morning Herald doesn't seem to be very independent always at all. Well, Mia, keen to bring you in here. It's, Media Watch, Sydney Morning Herald, they're very quick to point out conservatives when they fray over what they believe to be acceptable speech. Very keen to do entire investigations and everything. But when it's one of their own, if it's someone on the far left talking about creating a paradigm where political violence is essentially accepted or encouraged, you could even take it one interpretation further, they don't touch it. They leave her profile up. They plug her book. It's appalling. That's right. I think it even goes further than just protecting her. They platformed her. She was a columnist for the Sydney Morning Herald. They created her. That's exactly right. They're the ones who allowed her views to fester and then seep out onto the platform that she has these days. That's why she has such a big following, is because these groups built that base for her. So now to turn a blind eye and kind of say, that's not my problem, we're not interested, I just think it is appalling. Clementine Ford is an extremely callous individual who has advocated for violence, and they won't say anything on this issue. And I thought what was interesting is I had a look at some of the articles that Jaspan has felt was within his remit to put out. And quite regularly, he thinks it's noteworthy to comment on the fact that Kyle and Jackie O were saying something vulgar on their radio show, which I mean, newsflash, when Kyle and Jackie O are not saying something vulgar. But the fact that you had a former columnist who was going out and advocating for violence, you don't think that is noteworthy of something to commentate on? Telling me on the phone that he hadn't even seen it, and I find that completely implausible, but maybe it's true. Who knows with that guy?
Well, with the Sydney Morning Herald, what I like about it is, so Clementine Ford has been kicked off Facebook and Instagram for those videos, and she said that she's going to create her own new app. Now, I don't know about you guys. I think this is going to be the great disrupting force in media. I think in a couple of years' time, it's going to be X, Substack, and Clementine Ford's app for where people get their news. Bizarre to me that the media writer of the Sydney Morning Herald wouldn't think to cover such a monumental time in Australian media than the creation of this app. I mean, especially when it is a former journalist. Wouldn't you want to give it the leg up? And then for the ABC, like the ABC, they love saying that they're unbiased, that they're the superior journalists, they don't let individual biases get in. It's wrong. Like, they're humans. All humans are biased. I'm biased. Everyone's biased.
It's biased by omission in this case.
And it's just like acknowledge the fact that journalists do have bias. Anyone has bias, and there is a bias. We're talking about Media Watch here. They ran a segment on the media's coverage of Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman getting divorced. I mean, huge story. Not the same as one of Australia's most prominent authors saying what she did about Charlie Kirk and getting kicked off kicked off better, I would have thought.
Yeah, they could even explore the angle of her being deplatformed and whether it's right, but just to not touch it, I think is very, very strange. James and Mia, thank you so much for joining me.